Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach. I just want to note that there are two totally empty rows in front here, and I just want you to know that that's how you sat today. You're very far away from us, and that is sad. But, oh, my thing isn't off. I mostly respect your decisions to sit where you want. I'm honest, yeah. So we are going to begin together on bracketed page 130. And this is a melody that we have not sung in a long time, although we have sung it before, so let's just call it new. And it is written by Alana Arian. And Alana Arian will be on the Bima with us next Friday. So we're making sure we're singing a couple of her melodies today. So when we sing them with her next week, we're experts, right? She'll say, oh, this congregation knows all of these melodies. So we are on the top of page 130. There's a repeating melody you'll pick up, even if it feels unfamiliar at the start.
Let us sing unto God. Sing unto God a new song. Let us sing unto God a new song. La 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 la
So the way our holiday falls this year, we have the opportunity to really meet at once, Yizkor and Shabbat, which is a nice gift of calendars. So our service this evening is going to feel a little bit like you'll hear Passover melodies in it because we're still coming into the last day of Passover now, and we're going to hear Shabbat melodies, and we're going to take a little bit of extra time toward the end of our service for a Yizkor observance. And it's like that charoset that we make, it's all kind of mixed up and part of the sweet and the painful and the beauty and the loss of living as we do. So we are on bracketed page 142.
Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh, Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Baruch Hu Shalom, Malchei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. When this arrangement of Shalom Aleichem was written, Debbie changed this first word that in the last stanza, in the last part of this poem, from Tzeidchem to Shuvchem. This poem is all about the ministering angels that come to be with us on Shabbat. And in the traditional rendering, we wish the angels a peaceful departure. But Debbie Friedman, who wrote this melody, wished for us to wish the angels a peaceful return to wherever it is that they hang out during the week, or perhaps a peaceful return for them to us again when Shabbat will come. Perhaps I would add to that tonight as we sing these words and we make space for these angels of Shabbat, and in particular as we observe Yizkor this Shabbat together, we wish for a peaceful return for the memories and the legacies and the dear things about those you remember to sit amongst us, particularly this evening and on this holy day that is set aside for remembering on this festival of Passover. So the beginning of that last verse, Shuvchem l'shalom. Shuvchem l'shalom, Malchei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, Hakadosh, Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Although perhaps less in a big way, I'm going to welcome the return, like Shuvchem, of the angels and of our beloveds, the return of Les Ivani from his many months away from us in Florida, to invite him to come light our Shabbat and festival candles on page 120. So we're using a Shabbat prayer book, but we're going to add Shabbat V'Shel Yom Tov when we sing our blessing this evening. Page 120.
And mercy
before we offer Kiddush, which I think we will do in our familiar Shabbat Nusach and words, so we can all join together when we get there. What's good? What's a blessing you have to add to this cup of sweet fruit of the vine? Your son got his doctorate. Mazel tov. Cool. Awesome. Sorry, Jana, what were you saying? Janet Fink is having a family reunion. Yes. Monoloys and Chalfins and Finks. Awesome. We love it. Ellen. Wonderful. Patty is driving. Wonderful. I know last week you had no cane. It's awesome. Yes. Very cool. And Patty has something to share. Happy birthday, Harrison. That's wonderful. What else is good this side of the quiet sanctuary? Nothing? It's good to say good things, even when things feel uncertain. I know. All right, Eileen. Is that because she had to wait until midnight to get to the 4 questions? Because that's a really long Seder. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Moshe said what? Oh, wow. So that's cool. Lots of like a multilingual 4-question asking led by grandchildren. Beautiful. Good. I successfully hosted 28 people in my home on Passover for a second Seder, which does feel like a small miracle in a Radburn home. And that was the most we have needed to fit, and it was awesome. So, yeah, 28, I know. Yeah, we had to swap furniture in rooms. It was like a whole, ordeal. But then my friends stayed after the Seder to swap all the furniture back, which made me much less cranky about doing it again next year. So that was awesome. Anything else good? Go for it, Marla.
My daughter came home safely after 2 weeks in Japan.
Wonderful. A safe return from a long trip. Good. Okay. So remember, this is we do this because it's great to know what's happening in our lives, to share with each other the good stuff, and also as a weekly reminder that particularly when we are doom scrolling a lot, it's really important to pause for moments of blessing and gratitude, to notice all the good, or at least some of the good, or at least something that's not terrible that's happening around us when we feel sort of like in the muck, which may be a way you feel sometimes these days. It's a way I feel sometimes these days. I will only speak for myself. We are on page 123. Please rise.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon, Hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila lemikrae kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol amim, ve'shabbat kodshecha, ve'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat. Page 146, we remain standing. to take a deep breath for Shabbat. Page 152.
Shema,
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Page 154, please be seated.
Ve'ahavta
Et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha vechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinantam levanecha, vedibarta bam, veshivtecha beveitecha, uvlechtecha vaderech, uvshochbecha uvkumecha, ukshartam leot al yadecha, vehayu letotafot beineinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uvisharecha leman tiskeru basitem et kol mitzvotai vitem kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot lachem le'elohim, ani Adonai Elohechem. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. The middle of 161. Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah, atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Baruch atah, atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo. Ve'al Yerushalayim shalom. Baruch atah, atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. Shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. Page 164. Please rise. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei avoteinu ve'imoteinu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Bekonei Hakol Bezocher Chastei Avot ve'imahot Umevi Geula livnei bneihem Leman Shemo be'ahava Melech Ozer u'Mashiach u'Magin Baruch atah Adonai Magin Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. Note on 168 that this is the Shabbat where we switch from the winter to the summer insertion. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai Mechayeh hakol atah Rav le'hoshia Morid hatal Mechakel chayim bechesed Mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim Somech noflim verofei cholim Umatir asurim Umekayem emunato Lishenei afar Michamocha bal gevurot Umido melech Melech memit umechayeh Umatzmiach Yeshua V'ne'eman atah lahachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai
בחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. We continue privately through pages 180 and 181. You may do so seated or standing, as is your custom. In the middle of bracketed page 653 are the words for Dodi Lee, which we'll sing this evening, specifically because they come from the book Song of Songs, which is the biblical book that is also assigned to and associated with the holiday of Passover. All right, we're going to study a little Torah and then a little things related to Torah. How about that? I'm going to just send the papers and you're going to get them to your neighbors, okay? I think I made 30 copies and I didn't count how many of you there are. So if you like the person you're sitting next to, you can just send them back. Then share with your neighbor if you like that person. And if you don't, then
Well, if they don't know that, you're in a tricky spot now. So, all right. Yeah, I just believe that you're going to figure out how to make this work. We're all like really smart. Yep, we're going to pass them. There's people over here. Everyone's going to get a paper. We'll get it back to you. We'll figure it out. Everyone needs a paper. I'm going to wait. I'll wait, because, 30 papers surely is enough for everyone to be sitting close enough to one, right? I think so. There's going to be leftovers, and then you're going to get to all have more. Watch. See? It's working. It's happening. It's great. Okay, they're going. It's going. Yep. Patty, do you have extras? It looks like we could use some more over here. All right. Here's a thought experiment for you. We now have, although I can't show them to you because I don't know how to make them work, but I bet Shane and Jennifer do, and they're not set up anyway, but this isn't what this is about, by the way. There are screens that come down, and there's projectors in the back, so like we could decide, I could, put this text up on the screen one day. That's a project that we're going to learn how to do if we wish to. Okay, is everybody sitting next to a paper or holding a paper so we can study some Torah together? Excellent. Okay, so our normal weekly reading at this point would have us in the third book of the book of Leviticus. Sorry, the third portion in the third book in the book of Leviticus, because that's just where we are. However, the regular, this is just random information you might wish to have. The regular weekly Torah reading changes, it pauses for holidays, and there are specific portions that are assigned to specific holidays. So we're reading, we're not where we should be chronologically in the story. We've actually gone back this week to specific verses that are assigned for the Shabbat during Passover, okay? So in case you're confused about, because you come all the time, which is awesome, and you're confused about where we are. So I even have it here because I thought in advance to ask for it, and Shane prepared it for me. Thank you, Shane. I thought maybe we could pass a mic around also. And you don't have to read. This isn't like required reading, but you might wish to hear somebody else's voice, not only mine. And if you really just miss my voice, then I'll keep reading. But we're going to read through these texts on the front, at least to start. And I don't think there's any really unusual words that you might stumble over, but if there are, I promise to jump in. Who wishes to be the Nachshon to read tonight? Which is really good timing for that joke because it's Passover, but only like 4 of you got it. Okay, that's a different conversation. Who wants to start reading first? Thank you, Jane Simon. I appreciate you.
I don't even think I need it.
Well, you do because the people joining us home on the live stream will only hear through a microphone.
Hi, live stream. Genesis, at length, Joseph said to his brothers, I am about to die. God will surely take notice of you and bring you up from this land to the land that he promised on oath to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. So Joseph made the sons of Israel swear, saying, when God has taken notice of you, you shall carry up my bones from here. Joseph died at the age of 110 years, and he was embalmed and placed in a coffin in Egypt.
Okay, so I told you we were going back to Exodus, but Jane just read from the book of Genesis, which has not told you not our assigned portion for the week, but it's helpful background, okay? So at the end of the book of Genesis, all of our ancestral matriarchs and patriarchs have died, right? And where are we living at that point? In Goshen, very specific. Where is Goshen? Thank you. Egypt, right? It's like a suburb. We have like a Jewish community. All the Jews have been settled in Goshen because remember Joseph, after he was sold into slavery, became the second in command, and then there was a famine, and then all the people came to be with Joseph because that's where the food was, and they made up-ish, and they stayed there. Okay, so Joseph dies at the end of the book of Genesis. And what is his request to his family? Bring his bones. When? When they When they leave Egypt. Okay. So when Joseph dies, things are pretty good for the Jews in Egypt, right? Like when Joseph is there, this is not yet the time of the Passover story, right? It's the way like 400 years precursor to that. And Joseph is like the guy, like it doesn't get better than to be Joseph's family. So it's interesting that he says, I want to be brought back. When you leave, take me with you. Because you could reasonably think, this life's not so bad. Like maybe this is just going to be our place. But it's not going to be our place because we have a place, right? Our place is the place that we're trying to get to for the whole rest of the Torah. It's the promised land. It's Israel. So he makes his family promise that when they leave, they will return his bones just like they returned Jacob, his father's bones, when he died, his body, to the land of Canaan. Good? You're with me? Okay. So he's embalmed and he's placed in a coffin in Egypt, and that's all it says in the Torah. There's lots of midrash about this later. Will somebody, either Jane or somebody else who feels brave, want to read? Okay, well, let's make it somebody close to Jane. Look, Ellen has her hand up. Good, and then we can come to you, other Jane. Other Jane. Additional Jane. All right, Ellen.
Exodus 13:18-19 from this week's special portion.
Great.
So God led the people round about by way of the wilderness at the Sea of Reeds. Now the Israelites went up, armed out of the land of Egypt. And Moses took with him the bones of Joseph, who had exacted an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will be sure to take notice of you. Then you shall carry up my bones from here with you.
Okay, so what happened in these verses, which is, Aviva has a question. Great question. So that's a great question, and I spent a lot of time in the midrash around these verses. That one midrash I did not include talks about how when all of the Israelites were like taking the jewelry or packing their stuff up quickly, Moses, he was solely preoccupied with getting Joseph's bones. Like that was his one focus, and I don't know how they had time, but that was like his project. After the 10th plague. Okay, I know, it's like time is magical, but I know, there's no bread, but they got the bones. I mean, it's actually an even more interesting question because, well, let me see what Stephen's going to ask or a comment.
I don't know if Jonathan Sachs said this, but I can picture him metaphorically saying that Judaism is a matter of trust.
Okay.
Even if ancestors have passed, if you've made a covenant,
You have to make good on it.
trust is going to be carried out.
Great. So it was really important. Like they weren't leaving without Joseph, basically, right? That was a promise that they had made. Not these people, by the way. These are people living hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years later. But the people had made a promise to Joseph that there was trust in that promise, right? That was going to happen. So Aviva, your question is even more interesting, and we're not going to talk about it now, but how did he have time? Well, like where are Joseph's bones, right? Who is the one who knows where Joseph's bones are? I've taught you this. She's my favorite. No. It's the granddaughter of Jacob, though. Remember what her name is? Her name is Sarah, and she's like this mysterious woman like Elijah who never dies, and she lives at all of the times. She comes down to Egypt, and then she leaves with them, and she's the only one who knows where the bones are, but that's a different study, one of my favorites. But here we are. Okay, so they're leaving, they're hurrying. Moses makes sure that he takes the bones of Joseph because they promised to Joseph they would take the bones. That had to happen. Okay. So what is up with this promise, right? Why is it so important that Moses and the people take these bones? What? A promise is a promise. Okay.
Joseph wasn't brought to Egypt voluntarily.
That's true. Joseph was not brought to Egypt voluntarily.
From that line that should be back in home.
Great. So the way he retells the story at the end of Genesis, actually, it's like it was meant to be because he's the one who figured out the dreams and blah, blah, blah. But for sure, he was forced into Egypt because he was abandoned by his brothers and sold into slavery and then put in the jail, and you know the rest of the story, right? So So there's some version that's just making good on what they did wrong. Great. Yeah. Great. There's something like really particularly powerful, for me, as I was preparing for today, and we're observing Yizkor on this Shabbat. It was like very resonant to like watch the way the Israelites cared for Joseph's bones, right, and his memory, and all of the promises that somebody 400 years ago made to a patriarch they never knew, right? But that is part of their family, less. Yeah. I didn't think about that, but yes, right? Just how we are in the ceasefire negotiations, when we talk about bringing all the hostages home, they want all the hostages, right? Whether they are dead, I mean, hopefully alive, but even the bodies have to be returned home, right? Right, yeah, Jane?
It makes me think of the game of telephone. I'm sure that
Somebody told somebody told somebody told somebody, right?
she started to
So
say
that's,
something, and it went through everything.
except this one doesn't get changed. And in a game of telephone, usually the end circle is different than where it starts. But here we have the beginning and the end, which is great.
How?
Well, I don't know. It says the beginning and the end. It's right there, Genesis and Exodus. I don't know how, but you know what? I want to just stay on this for a second. I'm looking at the text, so are you. But we don't leave family behind, but it's more than that. I want to just build on your metaphor there, or your whatever. And you don't have to answer it, but just to think about your own family. In your game of telephone, what's the equivalent of like, don't forget Joseph's bones, right? What are your like core family narratives or truths that you know have been passed down from generation to generation that you treasure and that you will not leave behind? Right? That is actually the essence of this. That is where we're going to get in a minute. That is like why this is such a beautiful teaching for Yizkor. Because unlike in a game of telephone, the request is still remembered exactly as it was delivered. And they don't forget. Okay? Great. Sure, all those things, right? Yeah, definitely. Okay, so let's read this next little text from the Talmud, which is just nice because it's there. It's easier to keep going. Who's got the mic? Great. You want to read again? You want to pass it to somebody else? Sue's going to read. Fabulous.
Okay. All those years that the Jewish people were in the wilderness, these two arks, one a casket of a dead man, Joseph, and one the ark of the divine presence, i.e., the ark of the covenant, were traveling together, and passerby would say, "What is the nature of these two arks?" They said to them, "One is of a dead person, and one is of the divine presence." The passerby would ask, "And in what way is it the manner of a dead person to travel with the divine presence?" They said in response, "This one, i.e., the deceased Joseph, fulfilled all that is written in this."
Okay, like it's beautiful, right? So now skip ahead in the story to like the part in, maybe the end of Leviticus and then in Bamidbar and Devarim and Numbers and Deuteronomy when the people are traveling again. And we know that there might have been two arks, right? That there were two things they carried. We often think about one of them holding the broken tablets that Moses smashed when he came down the first time and saw the Israelites with the golden calf. And here's another way of imagining the second thing they're schlepping with them. So in addition to the 10 Commandments, they're carrying Joseph's bones through the whole way of the Torah, right? They got to get all the way to Israel. It's a long trip. Again, more generations, right? The people who leave Egypt do not go to Israel. So what a beautiful idea to imagine that the Israelites had this at their center. Not just this, the 10 Commandments, but this, the bones of Joseph, who they promised, all of them collectively, even before they could make a promise, they promised to return to their land. Right? And if we were in Torah study and we had so much time, and I thought you'd still like me if I kept going with this text, I'd love to know what you think the text means, the rabbis mean when they say that this one fulfilled all that is written in this. Right? There are so many beautiful ways of understanding how Joseph fulfilled what was written in the Torah, even before the Torah existed, or in the 10 Commandments, like what it was about Joseph's life that is compared in that way to the Ten Commandments. I'm going to leave that with you because I want to keep going for the purpose of this. But in and of itself, that's a beautiful statement about the way we remember people. Okay, let's read these last two pieces and I know you'll notice there's a whole second page, which we're not going to read all of, but it's important and I want you to know why it's there. We'll read a little bit of it. Let's read this piece by Rabbi Sue Levy Elwell. It's happening. The microphone is moving. Not tomorrow. When we were designing the sanctuary, we thought, like, could we hang mics so that we could just have people speak and not have to pass a handheld mic? But then we'd hear all of your side chatter also. And that seemed like it was going to be a bad plan. Marla.
Moses carried Joseph's bones with him and passed them on to Joshua. After Joshua's death, the bones of Joseph, which the Israelites had brought up from Egypt, were buried at Shechem. We too remember Joseph, who dreamed that his descendants would live in freedom. Joseph wanted to be buried not in Egypt, the land where he was always a stranger, but in a land of his dreams. Can we, like Moses and Joshua, carry the bones of those who came before us and, like them, attempt to realize shared dreams?
So we'll pause there for a moment to think about your particular people, the bones of the people you carry with you, right? They could be your parents or your partners or your children or your siblings or your close friends, whoever it is, right? Whoever it is that you remember always, but maybe particularly Yiskert. How can we help them, help their dreams become more realized than they were in their lives? Because that's what this is really about, is about knowing the dreams of that person and bringing them to life in a way that the living didn't get to do on their own. Steve?
Isn't it more, instead of dreams of a person, we're talking about a community here. They didn't even think of individuals back then.
Yeah.
So it's more of a community, so it's dreams of a way of life.
Yeah, so I would say that's Joseph's dream, but what I'm saying is big picture, right? So that that's how Rabbi Sulabi Elwell is framing Joseph's dream. But, all of our family members have their own particular dreams, right? So I am going to go back to something related to that in a moment, which is to say, I think that we collectively have to continue to carry the bones of Joseph in that way, like as a people. So that's true. And there may be people in your, intimate circles of people you've loved whose legacies or wishes or hopes or dreams, were not totally fulfilled, because that's true for a lot of us, even if we are lucky enough to get to live to a ripe old age, right? So how do we, like these Israelites, schlep those dreams along with us and bring them into the world so that they live in a way that is not just a memory? I think is part of the question for us this week in particular. Marla, do you want to read the last piece right there by Rabbi Alan Flam?
Sure. The bones could only be buried after Joshua died and right before Eleazar, the son of Aaron, dies, which teaches us that an entire generation must sometimes pass on before we can completely deal with that which is carried over from the past. To carry bones is to possess the sacred. To bury the bones means getting on with life.
I know, right? So it's what's the point? I mean, in the narrative of the story, it's clear when they get to bury Joseph's bones and what that means for them. But for us, what's that? I'm not sure it's quite so black and white, when we carry and when we bury and we're sort of moving on. Maybe there are moments where we feel like we've done that, and then sometimes we step back into that carrying phase, right? It's not usually quite so linear and quite so binary when we remember people we've loved, and all of that is part of how we remember. And all of it is sacred, and all of it is family transmission and the way we live. Jane, what were you going to say?
It made me think of after you have a Jewish funeral and you sit shiva and time is up, that you get up
And you walk around the block, yeah.
and get back on with your life. Yes, you have the slow change,
Yeah.
but it still means that you are.
Right, you have to walk back into life, but it's not It's not, it is a walking back into a life that now doesn't include the person you just remembered, right? So there's never, like, you can't say to someone, oh, like, it'll go back to the way it was. It's never going to go back to the way it was, because whoever it is that you've just been remembering is no longer living with you. Yeah, and sometimes it's like terrible and confusing and bumpy and backwards, and that's why it's not like you just move on. I mean, every year you get a letter that reminds you of the yahrzeit of the person. So, yes, it's like all the steps backwards and forwards and right and left, and we're still telling the story of Joseph's bones. So even though the people buried them, and in this reading they get to move on, they get to go to the next thing, they made sure we didn't forget that they carried the bones and they never forgot the promise, right? And that's the sort of back and forth of remembering and of legacy. Well, Aviva asked about naming our children after people who have died. That's an Ashkenazi tradition. Sephardi Jews name after the living. So I think that may be why Ashkenazi descendant Jews do it that way, but there are lots of Jews all over the world who do it the opposite way, which is they only name for the living. Okay. This is a very long statement that I put on the back of your sheet, and I'm not going to read the whole thing to you now, but I wanted you to see it because I think it's really important. So the URJ, and I'll tie back, and it's related to something that Steve said in a minute to why we're reading this in conjunction with this particular Torah study. The URJ signed on with a whole host of like mainstream Jewish organizations. The URJ stands for the Union for Reform Judaism. Sorry, it's the Reform movement umbrella under which we live. From many different denominations, specifically like religious organizations like ours, also like the JCPA, like all kinds of Jewish organizations, and issuing this statement that boils down to, not as nicely said, the following. Anti-Semitism is very bad. It's getting worse in many ways and violent. It's being used in really scary. This was issued before the governor of Pennsylvania's house was arsoned during Passover, right? Like, I don't need to make a list for you of all the things that are happening that are terrible and that are threatening Jews in this country right now. And I am going to read in the middle of the page here, just so you see what this is about. In recent weeks, escalating federal actions have used the guise of fighting anti-Semitism to justify stripping students of due process rights when they face arrest and or deportation, as well as to threaten billions in academic research and education funding. Students have been arrested at home and on the street with no transparency as to why they are being held or deported, and in certain cases with the implication that they are being punished for their constitutionally protected speech. Universities have an obligation to protect Jewish students, and the federal government has an important role to play in that effort. However, sweeping draconian funding cuts will weaken the free academic inquiry that strengthens democracy and society rather than productively counter anti-Semitism on campus. These actions do not make Jews or any community safer. Rather, they only make us less safe. We reject any policies or actions that foment or take advantage of anti-Semitism and pit communities against one another. And we unequivocally condemn the exploitation of our community's real concerns about anti-Semitism to undermine democratic norms and rights, including the rule of law, the right of due process, and freedoms of speech, press, and peaceful protest. So I would say, first of all, it's confusing right now because a lot of things are being done like in the name of Jews and in the name of fighting anti-Semitism. And there's also a lot starting to be written and shared about how we are being used as pawns in the service of something else that is not good for us, and it is not good for anyone else, for everyone else also, right? Anti-Semitism is bad. We need to fight anti-Semitism. There need to be consequences for dangerous, bad things that are happening. This doesn't say that shouldn't be. But to use anti-Semitism, fighting anti-Semitism, as the reason to be doing some of what's happening, particularly with deportations and on college campuses and in other of the situations that are tied directly, according to the language that's being shared with anti-Semitism, is actually not really about anti-Semitism most of the time. And using anti-Semitism as the excuse is not good for anyone. But I'll just speak for me, it's not good for us, right? So I want you to have this statement. I want you to see that you can be somebody who supports fighting anti-Semitism, standing up to make sure that we are safe and that we are not harassed, that we are not threatened, that students on college campuses are not harassed and they're not threatened. What happened in Governor Shapiro's house was actually about Israel, and it was like the guise of anti-Semitism, but really the comment by the person who arsoned the house was about Israel, had nothing to do with Jews, right? That is a different issue, this is not helping that problem. That's all I want you to see, and I want you to see that there is conversation happening about this so that we can listen carefully and figure out where our voices are needed and how we can help be part of the conversation that figures out how to actually get rid of the dangerous people and the dangerous voices and the dangerous rhetoric without using fighting anti-Semitism for something that's actually not really about fighting anti-Semitism. Does that make sense? And I was thinking about Joseph's bones as I was reading this statement, which is why we're looking at this all together and not another part of the service. And I was thinking about how, like all of you said, Joseph wanted to be in a place where his community and his descendants were free and were safe and got to live in a place that was their own, where they were not threatened, right? And we are the descendants who are still carrying that promise associated with Joseph's bones. We have to work to speak out against, to fight anti-Semitism, to make sure this place is free. We also have to make sure we're doing it the right way, and that we're speaking out against the people who are trying to do it in a way that is probably going to end up being much worse and much more dangerous for us, right? That's the delicate balance of what it means to not really be done with Joseph's bones in this moment. So you could look at that more if you're interested another time, but I think there are these two pieces of what it means to carry these bones this Shabbat. One is about the actual people you remember and the actual legacies and dreams and lives that are yours now to care for. And the other, this is where Steve was going, I think, is this, what does it mean to be part of this people where Joseph is all of ours, and therefore the legacy he left us is all of ours to keep alive. So we will offer a prayer for healing that is not in your prayer book. It is a call for comfort, and it was also written by Alana Arian, and we will be singing this with her next week when she is with us on Shabbat. And if you'd like to offer the name of anyone you pray for this Shabbat, you'll have the opportunity to do so in the middle, as always. To offer the name of anyone who's healing of body or of spirit you are praying for this Shabbat, I invite you to do so now. In our community of our congregation, we also pray for the healing of Debbie Becker, Kenny Breslow, Pete Brody, Tom Filan, Nissan Gertz, Susan Goodstadt-Levin, Jill Gordon, Patty Harrison, Edith Kitsorin, Risa Kaufman, Barry Kessler, Larry Levine, Ruth Liebesman, Ron Lynn, Gary Montroy, Cece Rund, Joanne Siegel, Joel Schwartzberg, Joyce Weinberg, and Stephen Weinberg. The middle of page 586. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit gedula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzon, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegoralinu kecho hamonam, v'anachnu korim umishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Page 591 in the middle of the page. Please be seated. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad u'shemo echad u'shemo echad. Take a breath as we're going to sort of step into a brief Yizkor observance. Oh, Janet, you don't have to go very far. You just need your book, okay? As always, there are candles, as always here anyway, there are yahrzeit candles set up, and you don't need to get up and light a candle at any point, but if you feel so moved at any point in the next few minutes, you're welcome to come light a candle here this evening as you remember your dear ones. My mother's mother died in the spring of her days, and her daughter did not remember her face. Her portrait, engraved upon my grandfather's heart, was erased from the world of images after his death. Only her mirror remained in the home, sunken with age into the silver frame. And I, her pale granddaughter, who does not resemble her, look into it today as into a pool which conceals its treasures beneath the waters. Very deep behind my face, I see a young woman, pink-cheeked, smiling, and a wig on her head. She puts in an elongated earring on her earlobe, threading it through a tiny hole in the dainty flesh of her ear. Very deep behind my face, the bright goldness of her eyes sends out rays, and the mirror carries on the tradition of the family that she was very beautiful.
Barak Hashemayim Tfilat Adam. Oh God, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heaven, the prayer of the heart. Ahol ve'ayam, rishrush shel hamayim, berak hashemayim, tfilat Adam.
Each person has a name. We each have a name given by God and given by our father and mother. We each have a name given by our stature and smile and given by our attire. We each have a name given by the hills and given by the walls. We each have a name given by the stars and given by our friends. We each have a name given by our sins and given by our yearnings. We each have a name given by our enemies and given by love. We each have a name given by celebrations and given by our work. We each have a name given by the seasons and given by our blindness. We each have a name given by the sea and given by our death.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though our time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days.
In a moment, we'll rise for the memorial prayer El Malay. And actually, as you rise, just give each other space. I invite you to share the names of anybody you're here to remember for Yisker, which may be more inclusive than if you're here for Yahrzeit also. I know that there's overlap in some of you, but we say Yisker even when it's not Yahrzeit. So as you rise and just, leave moments for each other, if you would like, I invite you to share the names of the people you remember this holiday. Somebody will be brave and start. And then you can rise after you say, because we're all going to end up standing. We rise together on page 582 for this memorial prayer. It's not in your book, sorry. It's a different book, don't look for it. Forget my page number. Start again, I apologize.
Shochein bamromim, hamitzei menucha nechona, tachat kanfei hashechinah, im kedushim utehorim, kezohar harakia matirim, lenishmat yakirenu, shehalchu leolamam, bar harachamim, harachamim, yastirem beseter kenafav leolamim, bitzror hachai mit nishmatam, Adonai unachalatam, ve'anuchu b'shalom al mishkavam, ve'nomar Amen.
You can stay standing. So we add in particular to all of these remembrances those of your dear ones whose Yahrzeit fall this Shabbat or have died in more recent days. This week we remember Sarah Abrash, Sarah Allenson, Albert Benson, Jacob O. Bilder, Rhoda Chalfin, Ida Cliff, Nat Dorfman, Mark Fallow, William Fine, Florence Goldstein, Bernard G. Goldstein, Harry Goodstadt, Shelley Hernandez, Marcia Kaiserman, Bernard Katz, Edith Katz, Carol Konowitz, Lily Lannon, Rebecca Levy, Stephanie Lowen, George Lynn, Emil A. Matthews, Judy Miller, Sally J. Paris, Eleanor Popovich, Jane Rosenblum, Joseph Rosenthal, Israel Rothenberg, Stanley Solomon, Harry L. Schoen, Abe Shane, Elise Scher, George E. Stave, Regina Wax, Kenneth Waxman, Lawrence J. Weinberg, Eleanor Weisbein, and Jeffrey Wolf. During this period of Shloshim, we remember Melanie Mertzel and Brenda Mann. There are others you remember whose names you'd like to offer here in particular for Yahrzeit, or somebody who's died in more recent days. I invite you to share that name aloud now. Zichronam livracha, may all of the memories of our beloveds continue to blossom into blessings as we carry on their legacies. We join together on page 598. Yitkadal, Yidkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach Yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uvyomechon, Uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala uvizman kariv v'yimru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'alam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'alal Shemei dekudesha b'reichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'yimru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'yimru Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all people everywhere. We say together, Amen. I know you think we should be done because we added so many things, but we still have one very important thing to do before we really finish, and that is our weekly, at least at Friday night services, counting of the Omer. You're welcome to return if you want, or you can stay here, whatever makes you happy. There is this 49-day period that runs from the second day of Passover through Shavuot, counting us on our journey from redemption to revelation, right? From going free from slavery to receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. And there's a daily practice of counting at Barnard. We do it as a weekly practice because that's when we're together. So turning your book, please, to bracketed page 570. It's brief, I promise. So the way it works, this Omer counting, it's quick, I promise. We're on 570 in your book, bracketed page 570. For real, it's not the wrong page, I promise. And the way it works every night is, and we count the Omer, we state the day in the evening, because you know that Jewish days start at night. So we will say this, I am ready to fulfill, then we'll say the blessing, and then we're going to fill in the blanks here. So for this Shabbat, today is going to be the 6th day of the Omer. That's what we're announcing, okay? Day 6, ready? Great. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer, hayom shisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 6th day of the Omer. Good. So we'll get even more comfortable with that over the next 6 weeks or so. I'm sure you are very diligent about reading your emails, but I'm going to beg you to make sure you read your Barnard emails, particularly for the next 6 weeks, because there is so much happening, and you want to know about all of it. There's such good, exciting stuff happening at Barnard. So next Friday night, as I mentioned earlier, Alana Arian will be with us for our Friday night service. She's just so fabulous. You want to come. So we're starting at 6:30, not 7:30, so we won't go too late. 6:30, Alana Arian, Shabbat. Great. Shabbat, and then next week there'll be Shabbat yoga and a bar mitzvah. And on April 30th, we'll be observing Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut with a Get Out the Vote party for the World Zionist Congress. So I'll do this here. Raise your hand if you voted in the World Zionist Congress election. You get a gold star. If your hand isn't up and you are eligible to vote, you don't get a gold star. And I really want to give you a gold star. It's not a real gold star, but I would give you a gold star. It's really important. Remember, 5 minutes, it costs $5. The election happens every 5 years, and it's about $5 billion of spending. It is the only way diaspora Jews to get to have any impact on what happens in Israel. It really matters. Please vote. Please vote. Please vote. If you need help figuring out how, I will help you. The election only goes through May 4th. We're running out of time. Okay? Next time you come, and when I say, did you vote in the election because I want to give you a pretend gold star, you're going to raise your hand because you really want to vote and get a gold star. Good. Okay. And there's just a lot of other things happening. We have a cool writers event happening featuring lots of Barnard writers on April 27th. We also have a really awesome event happening on May 4th with Rabbi Dov Linzer and Abigail Pogrebin. We're coming to talk about how, when we are different from each other, we create shared, meaningful conversation. They did it through Torah, so they're going to share their story, but it's not only about Torah. I hope that's not a turnoff for you, but if it were, I want you to know it's not really just a Torah talk. It's really using Torah and their experience as a way to figure out how to have hard conversations with people who don't share our backgrounds or our perspectives. And we've invited a number of different congregations, including an Orthodox congregation and 2 conservative congregations, to co-sponsor the event with us. So we're really hoping it'll be a beautiful community event. You can bring your friends. You don't have to belong to the synagogue. Just come. We want to fill the space. We want to have interesting learning with these awesome scholars. It'll be a good morning. That is on May 4th. So there's so much more. I won't tell you all the things, but you've already heard me say, please read your emails. As always. I mean, you're always reading your emails, I know, but we send a lot of emails because we have so much stuff happening. All right, ready? It's such a sad plate, but because it's a matzah. But I will just say the great Passover debate. How long is Passover? Okay, 7 or 8 days. So the Reform movement officially follows the Israeli schedule, calendar observance, which is what the Torah says, which is 7 days. So if you are doing that version of Passover, then you get to break your Passover tomorrow evening at sundown. If you're keeping 8 days, which is a more traditional diaspora Jewish practice, if you don't follow the Israeli calendar, then you are going to go until Sunday evening. But either way, when we're together next Friday, we'll have a nice fluffy challah here. But today we're going to say motzi over these lovely looking matzot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz Shabbat Yami. All right, so familiar words, probably, and definitely familiar melody. We're on
Bracketed page 625.
bracketed page 625 for Adon Olam, if you'd like to have words in front of you.
Adon Olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra le'et nasa b'chefsa kol azai melech shemo nikra dai daienu dai daienu dai daienu 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 dai daienu dai daienu dai daienu daienu daienu.
Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.
gathering has returned to the library. So if you're looking for a little kosher for Passover nosh, which is a kosher for Passover nosh, then you should find that in the library.